Hello everyone, welcome back to the Let's Talk podcast. This week we're going to do something slightly differently. Instead of talking just about the Premier League, we're going to start a new series where I talk specifically about a situation in the world of football, or about a particular club, or the ownership decision, or just a deeper dive into a situation at a football club. And I'm starting this week with Manchester United, in particularly the Jadon Sancho situation and Erik ten Hag's future. Now, as we've all seen over the past couple of weeks, Erik ten Hag and Jadon Sancho have had a very public fallout due to the manager's comments after the Arsenal game. When asked about Jadon Sancho, Erik ten Hag said that he hadn't been performing in training and as such was not a member of the squad travelling down to the Emirates Stadium. I did find this a little bit weird in the sense of, even if he's not been performing in training, you'd expect him to be in the matchday squad. And even if he's not in the squad, you'd expect him to go down to the Emirates and just be a presence on the bench, in and around the team. So even that comment and the fact that he'd left him out the squad led us to believe that there was more to it in terms of what was going on between Erik ten Hag and Jadon Sancho. Following this, Jadon Sancho put a very public statement out on his Twitter and his Instagram feeds. In the statement, he suggested that Erik ten Hag was misleading the public in terms of his statements about Jadon Sancho's efforts in training. He said he'd been training very hard, felt like he'd been made a scapegoat by Erik ten Hag, and that Erik ten Hag had been treating other players in the squad a little bit differently to him. And we've seen evidence of that, given Antony's very poor form, given the poor form of other players at the start of the season and staying in the squad. And it leads to a more general question about Jadon Sancho and his future at Manchester United, and about Erik ten Hag and his management. Now, this is not the first time the suggestions have been made about Jadon Sancho's work ethic, about how he approaches the game, about how he approaches training. I know at Manchester City, the reason he left Manchester City in the first place was because he suggested to Pep Guardiola that he wanted more playing time. He was unhappy with the role that he was had at Manchester City, and Pep Guardiola straight away was just like, right, okay, that's fine, and happy for him to go. Now, this is just one bit of evidence, but when he went to Borussia Dortmund, there was reports while he was at Dortmund that suggested that he was a little bit lax in training sometimes he was late to training, but when you look at his performance potentially in training and those reports, and then his performance on the pitch at Borussia Dortmund, the trouble or the problems definitely didn't seep into the pitch. When we look at particularly the way he was performing at Borussia Dortmund, he was actually performing at a level where, numbers wise, I'm not necessarily talking about performances, but numbers wise, there were literally maybe 5 or 6 players in the world that were comparable to Jadon Sancho while he was at Dortmund. He was excellent at finding space in between the lines. His close ball control, the way he used to dribble with the ball up the pitch, not quick dribbling, but quality dribbling, where he'd find spaces and play nice little football, nice little 1-2s with his teammates. And then he's came to Manchester United, and he's had I think he, alongside a lot of other players, but particularly Sancho, may have had an issue adjusting to a club the size of Manchester United. You look at teams like Dortmund, and Dortmund are a massive football club, one of the biggest football clubs in Germany. I'd hesitate to say one of the biggest clubs in the world, but they're certainly a big football club in the grand scheme of things. But you've moved from Borussia Dortmund to Manchester United. You're now getting targeted by the British press, who are vultures and will literally pick the bones off the carcass of any footballer that the British press are like piranhas. As soon as they get a sniff of blood, they are terrible. We've seen what they've done to players in the past, what they've done to Raheem Sterling, what they're now doing to the likes of Dele Alli, although we'll speak about Dele Alli a little bit more later in the video, and Harry Maguire. The British press really drive the blade in when they get the opportunity, and Jadon Sancho again, as I was saying before, he struggled in his first season at United, although he did grow into it a little bit later on. And Erik ten Hag did give him an opportunity. He gave him a couple of months last year to go and try and sort out his mental health struggles, which, according to certain journalists, should not have been leaked to the public and was leaked by the United end, which I find a little bit disgusting. But clearly Jadon Sancho hasn't had the best start. I think it'd be comfortable to say that Jadon Sancho hasn't had the best start to his career at Manchester United. We roll on to this pre-season and Sancho's playing, he's coming off the bench a lot, but he's playing in a sort of false nine position and actually looking like he could link the play up quite well. The idea behind the false nine is that they drop deep, they assist, they bring the wingers in, and particularly Marcus Rashford, he probably needs a centre forward to play off him. Like we saw the game against Brighton. I don't think Marcus Rashford is a pass-first winger. He's not going to look for a chance to open the game up for his teammates and to create goals for them. He's going to need them to create goals for him. And I think that was potentially the idea behind Sancho playing in the false nine in pre-season. But the season started and straight away Sancho's not in the team. And Antony is playing off the right-hand side, and then they're playing the likes of Rashford up front rather than playing Sancho in this role that he's played in pre-season. He's hardly featured this season, and yeah, it's I found the reaction to it a little bit sad in a way. I said before we're going to talk a little bit about Dele Alli. Dele Alli had a complete and utter character assassination for 2 years in this country by the press, by fans, by everybody, and we've watched his form dip worse and worse and worse off the back of that. We've watched his desire be questioned, his drive be questioned, his actual ability be questioned, and I don't think players like Sancho, like Ali, their ability doesn't just disappear overnight. You don't just become a bad footballer. So I would suggest that maybe what's happened is confidence and not feeling appreciated. And we've got an Erik ten Hag, a manager who his track record in terms of players that he's put his back into and players that he's went after. So he's put his back. He apparently really wanted Mason Greenwood to come back and play for United. He really wants Antony to be. Antony's his man. Antony's in the team, and Jadon Sancho has just literally been tossed aside. And in the media now, every day we're seeing more and more stories. Jadon Sancho's done this, Jadon Sancho's not done that. There was one about him being, like, his demeanour not being particularly happy at a photo shoot. It's like, who the fuck cares about that? Jadon Sancho's role is to be a good footballer for Manchester United, and I know he hasn't been, but it's a terrible situation for Jadon Sancho to find himself in. And I wonder whether, because I've noticed there was a lot of people saying you've got to back the manager has standards, the manager is setting his stall, and we need to back the manager really in this situation. However, I wonder if as United performances continue to be poor, the shift will happen where more and more people will back Sancho out of default. I think if you had to have a bet now who's going to be at Manchester United longer, Erik ten Hag or Jadon Sancho, I don't know which way you'd actually go with that, because whilst Jadon Sancho is an asset with a little bit of value that they might be able to get rid of in January, Manchester United this season have been absolutely pathetic on the ball, off the ball, offensively, defensively. They have been really, really, really poor, and I'm wondering, players get better when they don't play. You see it at every football club. When you're not on the pitch and your team's playing badly, all of a sudden X player is the one that'd make the difference, even when he wasn't making a difference when he was actually playing. And I wonder if that sort of effect is going to happen with Jadon Sancho. I've seen him being linked with a couple of clubs, and in my opinion, I really want Jadon Sancho to be able to leave Manchester United and to get his career back on track. When I was watching highlights of him at Dortmund, I actually thought this could have been a player that Liverpool looked at. Thought he could have been a player that would have fitted in at Manchester City as well, and he would probably fit in really well at Arsenal these days. But because of what's happened with his career at Manchester United, I just think he needs to go somewhere where he can enjoy his football again. I've seen links to Barcelona, which would be interesting. It's a sign though as well that clearly other clubs, big clubs, rate Jadon Sancho. Barcelona, they won. I know over the last couple of years they've sort of lost a little bit of the star power, but they won the league comfortably in Spain last year. Comfortably. They are probably an underrated, almost like it's weird to call Barcelona a dark horse, but they're almost a dark horse to win the Champions League this year. They're building a good, like, young team with lots of energy, lots of drive, and very technical as well. If Jadon Sancho can find a way to go there, they're probably one of the only clubs in the world who would pay a significant amount of his wages. I know they've got money problems, but they could still pay a significant amount of his wages. And they're also one of the only clubs in the world that rivals Manchester United for stature. So if Barcelona are looking at him, and I'm pretty sure some other clubs are going to be looking at him as well, surely that tells Erik ten Hag and Manchester United that other clubs are aware that they've got a player on their hands, but United just can't seem to get that player out. They can't draw that player out. And in a general sense, United seems to be a pit now, where players with a bit of promise or players who have already shown their ability, they go to Manchester United, and it seems to do reputational damage. A lot of people who've went to United in the past 5 years have, or you can even extend it a little bit longer to include Paul Pogba, have suffered significant reputational damage by going to Manchester United. It's really just to keep it on, to not go into United too much and to keep this on Jadon Sancho. You can't tell me that Jadon Sancho doesn't have a place in that United squad, especially now given the situation with Anthony. We don't know when Anthony will next be playing for Manchester United, given the situation with Ahmed Diallo and with Palestri. I know they're both seemingly bright young talents, but they are young players at the end of the day. And if United want to achieve anything this season, it looks like they need to put more stock in players with a little bit more experience, players who know what they're doing on the big stage. And I think Erik ten Hag and Sancho need to resolve this issue, otherwise it's just going to be another stick to beat Sancho with. It's a Euros year as well, and I'm sure he'd like to be in that Euro squad for England, although he'd have to do something quite remarkable to dig himself in there now. And it's going to be a stick to beat Erik ten Hag with. If even something so simple as Jadon Sancho being on the bench for that game against Brighton on the weekend, that would have taken away another bit of criticism that Erik ten Hag can get. Just by having him there, he didn't even have to come on, but just by having him there, showing that there's not this massive rift between Sancho and ten Hag, showing that players can work their way back into contention, that would be fantastic for Erik ten Hag, and it'd be something that people in the media can't use to criticise him. Someone like myself, that I can't use to criticise him with. Now it just looks like Erik ten Hag goes and creates problems for some of these players, and yeah, I think the media's treatment of Sancho has been disgusting. We need to look after players like this. We need to make sure that players who are going through a difficult time don't. I understand people can be criticised and people deserve criticism at times, but I look at Jadon Sancho, I look at Kai Havertz, I look at some other players in that sort of realm, and I think we absolutely batter them. We batter them every week. Every week. The confidence must be shook. They mustn't enjoy doing what regular people do and going on social media and things like that, because the criticism is never ending, and people have the opportunity to actually message these people with abuse as well. So yeah, I think as football fans we need to treat players a little bit better in that regard. But yeah, the situation with Sancho and United needs to be rectified sooner rather than later, for the sake of both player, manager and football club. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed, please like and share. I'd love to grow the channel a little bit more before the end of the year, and I'm promising some more consistent content. See you later. Thank you.